School budgets have been slashed to the bone. The quality of our children's education is at risk. Plus, lower quality education lowers property values. Donate today to keep Castro Valley schools excellent.
Where are we with the budget? That's a good question. We've been meeting. We should be scheduling a budget workshop with the board probably in the next 2 weeks. And we're trying to get a handle because we're going to have to plan for contingencies. The budget process is a multi-month process, and it starts when the governor releases his January budget projection. And the Governor Brown released his budget projection. And it's an interesting budget. It involves a tax election in November. And keep November in mind because that's a critical date. His budget is based on a tax passing in November. That if the tax passes, the district will be facing about $400,000 in budget cuts. If his tax does not make the ballot or fails, the district is facing a $3.5 million budget cut, and that's a huge difference. And we have a number of dates in between. So first of all, we have to give preliminary layoff notices by March 15th. No tax election until November. We have to give final layoff notices by May 15th. No tax election until November. And the board, under the California Constitution, must adopt its 12-13 budget by June 30th, not knowing what the state budget is. And people are saying, well, plan on the governor's tax passing. We're going to have to plan that it doesn't pass, but we really don't want to go down that road, but we may not have any choice. So what it'll probably be is we're going to have to look at all possible cuts that would give us that amount of money. Many of those things that have been discussed in the public, such as reducing school year by 15 days, that's a negotiated item. We have to sit down with our Teachers Association and negotiate that. So it's not an automatic. We're sort of caught between a rock and a hard place. You're going to have to plan for it not passing, but then you also want to be humane with people and rational as you go down things. So that's part of the reason for a budget workshop. We're talking, we're looking at options. Historically, in the last couple of years during the budget cuts, we've drawn down our reserves, and we will continue to do that, but you can only go so far. We've been very fortunate with the federal government, with the ARA and the SFSF money that came in, and then the Ed Jobs money. So we have spaced that out over a couple of years. Those are gone. And then the Schwarzenegger, the last budget from the Governor Schwarzenegger, had money in it for schools that nobody ever expected to see. And Jerry Brown came in and said, no, you're going to get it this year. Okay, so we've been fortunate with one-time money and reserves. We're heading down towards the legal requirement of 3%. You can't go below 3%. So it's a lot of sort of wait and see with deadlines that are long after when we have to make decisions at the state level. The state budget crisis, very simply, we are being funded on a per student basis less than we were in the 07-08 year. We're also being funded significantly below the Prop 98 formula. Normally you see 3, maybe 4 years, and then it starts to come back. We haven't come back yet, and even the governor said in his end of the year press briefing was that he actually said schools will be okay in 2 to 3 years. That's a long down cycle. We have employees who have gone, it'll be 5 years without raises. Health benefits, the cost of them have gone up, and we have a cap on our benefits, so the employees are paying out of pocket. So what's happened is the state economy has not generated the revenue. We went from a state budget of about $106 billion down to about $82 billion. Schools are supposed to get 40% of that. So even if we got our 40%, we've seen significant drops. And then the state has also deficited us. So what they do is say, okay, we're going to fund the COLA but we're going to deficit you 21%, so we get 79 cents on the dollar. They also are deferring our payments. We are deferred. A huge percentage of our budget is deferred 3 months, 6 months, and even in some cases 12 months. So the state budget crisis has impacted local districts, local agencies, and so we're looking through that. This board has been very, very good about planning for long terms and being fiscally prudent in its finances. But we're seeing a state budget crisis that's going on and on and on. We're also dealing with an ongoing structural deficit of more than $4 million because of all the cuts that the state has made over the last couple of years. We're very fortunate that we do have educational foundations and booster clubs and parent clubs. So what you've seen is Save Our Schools Castro Valley over the last couple of years has donated about $141,000. The Castro Valley Educational Foundation has provided many grants and numerous programs that have great value, so they've done that. The Sports Foundation, Castro Valley Sports Foundation, kicked in last year $26,000 last school year to help maintain the high school sports program, because I think you know we've cut all funding for high school sports, so we're really dependent on donations and fundraising. We've been able to do that, but the question is how long can you sustain that? And then at each local site, either the PTA or parent club raises money, but those are different amounts. They don't raise the scope of money that you can put on an entire program like class size reduction back in. That's $1 million. So you can't really depend on that. Looking ahead, we're still continuing. The board took the step of looking at a parcel tax election. The support for the district is great. There's good support from the community for our programs, our staff, our fiscal management. In this economic environment, there isn't enough support for a parcel tax. What people can do, one is be informed, okay? I have a superintendent's newsletter, a budget newsletter, a budget highlight newsletter, a Facebook page, a Twitter account, and you go to our site and you can find that out. One is being informed, two is being active, and that means letting our legislators know that enough is enough. You know, they have a tough job of making cuts, but let our local legislators know that schools need to be funded. And we're in the business of educating the next generation in a democratic society. And the question is, how do we make sure that our students have an appropriate education? The board meetings are public meetings, and they're more than welcome to come in. In fact, when we do the budget, we by law have to have a public hearing. So that gets publicized. In my 30-plus year career, we've rarely had people come out to those meetings, so I would encourage them to come out, even if they don't speak, just to listen and get an understanding. And I think we saw that the other night with the parcel tax discussion. A number of parents and community members listening to the discussion. Be informed, advocate for our students, our staff, and I think that's probably the best way.
School budgets have been slashed to the bone. The quality of our children's education is at risk. Plus, lower quality education lowers property values. Donate today to keep Castro Valley schools excellent.